The New Babylon, Chapter 3. As Pastor Rubens and John Allen rushed into the lobby, they were met by several of the other group members. Kevin Falk, the security chief for the group, stopped Pastor and the others from rushing out the door. He radioed to the man in the bell tower to see what was happening outside. The response came back. Appears to be clear, 3 dead in the street at the end of the block, adjacent to the L. 4 others scattered on foot to the east up Jamaica Avenue. Kevin answered back. Be advised, changing alert status from condition red to condition orange. Say again, moving status to condition orange. Pastor, John, and I exited the building onto the street. Roger that, Chief. Condition orange. Overwatch intact. Be careful. Kevin smiled as he looked at Pastor and John. Rifles at low ready. I'm out first. I'm going to cut left and make haste for the corner of the old bodega next door while you provide cover. You guys follow one at a time, just like we drilled. The 2 men nodded, and Kevin ran out and cut quickly left as the door flung open. Once all 3 men had cover and concealment behind the brick building directly to the north of the church property border, Kevin took the monocular from his vest and carefully scanned the area. 3 men lay dead at the corner, blood encircling their bodies. The radio crackled to life. It was the team member providing overwatch from the bell tower. Chief, be advised, I have movement in the garage in the rear of the old post office property to the north across Jamaica Ave. So far, appears to be 1 individual. I have a clear shot on target, awaiting instructions. Brad, hold steady. Do not engage unless necessary. I repeat, engage only if necessary. Roger that, Chief, came the reply back from the tower. As Kevin and his team assessed their options and made a plan for circling around to the west and coming into the post office garage from the back, the radio came to life again. Chief, be advised, 4 men moving in from the east toward the post office. It looks like the same guys who fled after the shootout with the men in the street. Kevin crouched back down as he turned around and put his back against the brick wall. Okay, men, stay alert, he warned. We're in a bad spot to engage the guys coming in from the east. John, you and Pastor stay here. I'm going to try to cross the road and make my way through the alley and come out directly across from the post office building. John and Pastor nodded. Kevin called to the tower and informed him of the plan. Once he knew he had cover from the tower, as well as from the men with him, he sprinted across the street into the alley. It seemed that he went unnoticed, as the unidentified parties were mostly out of view from the street. The tower radioed again. Team leader, take cover. 4 approaching from east will cross alley entrance in 10 seconds. Kevin quickly ducked into a doorway in the alley, just as the 4 men crossed the alley intersection. Only 1 man gave a passing glance into the alley as they crossed. Amateurs, thought the man in the tower. That's a good sign. They might have been amateurs, but they were all heavily armed. They still posed a serious threat. When the 4 men reached the post office garage, the church group team member in the tower could see that they were arguing with the person inside. It was clear now that it was a woman, and she was wounded, most likely in the fight that initiated the lockdown. One of the 4 men walked to a blown-out window in the post office and crouched down facing the church. Hey, you in the church. I know you can hear me. We want food and water. We're coming in, and we will kill anyone who tries to stop us. Kevin and his team did indeed hear him. The tower was stucco on the outside, like most of the covering on the frame parts of the church, which was constructed of mostly brick and stone. The stucco tower had been fortified on the inside with steel pieces, old solid oak doors, and whatever other sturdy materials could be found or salvaged from the neighborhood in the past few months. There was an opening 16 inches tall all the way around the tower from which to observe, and, if necessary, to shoot from. When the tower guard would sit down, fully covered and concealed, he could watch the activity in the street below from 4 video cameras mounted on each corner of the tower structure. With only limited solar and generator power capabilities now that the power grid was operating only intermittently at best, the cameras were left off to conserve battery power, only used in security-sensitive conditions. The man on duty in the tower now sat concealed, watching the small monitor in front of him. Nobody in the street could see him. It became clear from listening to the armed man at the window that the 4 men panicked and fled when engaged initially by the team member in the tower, leaving the injured woman behind. Now they decided to come back after things had quieted down to retrieve her. She was a refugee that the men had picked up weeks ago. She was more of a prisoner than a member of the group, and it was obvious that she did not want to go with them. As they struggled, one of the armed men slapped her across the face. She slapped him back and spit in his face. This infuriated him, and he smashed the butt of his rifle into her face, breaking her nose and causing her to bleed heavily. She fell to the ground and cowered in the corner to nurse her wounds. Kevin and Pastor and John listened to the play-by-play in the radio receivers in their earbuds being transmitted from the tower guard. Pastor spoke first, what they were all thinking. "We have to rescue her, Kevin," he said firmly. Kevin responded, "Negative. Hold your positions. We are going to watch and engage only if needed to secure our property. This is not our fight unless they bring it to us." Silence followed, and then Pastor spoke again. "Kevin, I understand your position, but I cannot just stand by and let this happen. I cannot let them take her and do heaven knows what to her." John cupped his hand over his headset mic so nobody else could hear him, and he told Pastor, "Isaac, we can't save everybody. This isn't our fight. These are the times we are living in, brother. It's us against everyone else. Self-preservation first." Pastor Rubens considered it for a moment and then spoke again. "I'm sorry, guys. I just can't let this happen. I understand if you can't help, but no matter the outcome, I must try to help this young lady." Another silence followed, and finally Kevin let out a deep sigh. By this time, 2 more team members were dispatched to the brick wall where Pastor and John were positioned. Then they made their way around into the alley in the rear of the bodega and proceeded toward the post office from the left. Once they reached the alley entrance on Jamaica Avenue, they took position on each side behind the building walls. One of them shouted to the men in the post office, "You in the post office, listen to me. You are not going to enter the church, nor will you be allowed any food or provisions. You have already murdered 3 people here today. You will be dealt with as armed trespassers and intruders. This is the only warning you will receive. Put down your weapons and let the girl go. Then simply walk away and we will not pursue you. Do it now," he demanded. The man in the window let out a loud laugh. "Who are you to be ordering us?" he demanded. "A bunch of holy rollers locked up in a church. These are our streets. They always have been and always will be. How about this? You put down your guns and walk away. Leave everything you have in there behind for us. And maybe, just maybe, we won't kill every last one of you." Kevin sighed again. "Okay, Tower, you got a shot at this guy?" "Roger that, Chief. Just say the word," came the response from the man looking through the scope of his .308 rifle at the man in the window. Kevin lifted his AR-15 and positioned his thumb in place to switch on the green dot laser sight. He squinted as he looked through the optic. He said, I can take the guy standing over the girl. That leaves the other two. There to the left side, behind the chucklehead in the window. One of the team members in the alley to the west answered, "If you can stall for a couple minutes for me to make my way across and over to the side of the garage, there's a busted out window there. I would have a good vantage point there and could most likely take the other two, or at least flush them toward the front windows." Kevin thought for a moment. "Well, I guess that's our best plan at the moment. You have 1 minute to get in position. Do your best to keep the girl alive." When Pastor heard this, he looked at John. John shrugged and said again, clipping his hands over his headset mic, "That's the best they could do, Isaac." Pastor nodded and looked down at the ground. The earbuds crackled again. Kevin said, "Let me know when you're in position." As soon as he received the signal that he had made his way to the side of the garage, Kevin spoke again. "Overwatch, you still got your shot?" "Roger that, Chief," came the response. "Okay. On my count to 1. 3, 2, 1. The 308 fired, and the man in the window dropped dead on the floor. Kevin flipped the switch on the laser sight, pulled the trigger. The man in the back by the girl fell dead also. Just then a flashbang came through the rear window, and in the confusion, the team member in the rear alley approached the window and fired, killing one of the other 2 remaining men. He then turned to his right and fired on the 4th man, who was already moving toward the door. The shot missed him, and before the team member could acquire the target again, the man fell dead. The tower guard shot him as he moved into the blown-out window in front of the building. The team member in the rear alley had now made his way through the window, moving toward the girl. She picked up the dead man's rifle and fired several times at the approaching team member, hitting him twice. At the same time, the green laser dot showed on her chest, and Kevin fired 2 shots in quick succession. She, too, fell dead to the floor.